Who's been watching this season of Top Chef? As of this recording, they're down to the finale with 3 chefs left. And by the time you hear this, that last episode will have aired. No finale spoilers here if you haven't watched it yet. But if you've been following along, you'll definitely recognize today's guest. Chef Tristen Epps has been bringing bold flavors, big heart, and some serious skill to this season's competition. And today we're getting the full story behind one of the chefs you might have been rooting for this season. This is Chris Spear, and you're listening to Chefs Without Restaurants, the show where I speak with culinary entrepreneurs and people working in the food and beverage industry outside of a traditional restaurant setting. I have 32 years of working in kitchens, but not restaurants, and currently operate a personal chef service called Perfect Little Bites, doing dinner parties in the Washington, D.C. area. And yes, this show is Chefs Without Restaurants, and yes, Chef Tristen is a restaurant chef. In fact, in the episode, he says that he loves restaurants so much, it's what he just wants to do. He doesn't want to do catering. Private dinners are fine, but he is a restaurant chef through and through. And that's fine with me for this episode because I really wanted to talk to him and I was excited to have him on the show. And I think you're also going to enjoy this. If you don't know much about him, Tristen's a James Beard nominated chef with Trinidadian roots, a Johnson & Wales graduate like myself, and he completed the 3-year Greenbrier apprenticeship under Master Chef Rich Rosendale, who is also a guest on this podcast. And after that, he spent a lot of time working with Chef Marcus Samuelsson, someone who I think he would call a mentor for sure. We talk about his international upbringing, culinary school, that apprenticeship, and I gave Tristen a lot of room to talk about what he wanted to talk about. And we really get into the value that we, and that's the collective we, place on different cuisines, especially food from the Black diaspora and other underrepresented cultures. Why are people willing to pay more for Italian and French food than, say, Haitian or Trinidadian food? This episode goes beyond food. It's about culture, identity, and what it really means to have your work valued. So if you're into conversations that challenge the status quo and celebrate the richness of global cuisines, I think this one's for you. And congratulations to Chef Tristen. I'm really hoping he pulled off a win here. But even if he didn't, I'm super proud of him, and I really enjoyed watching him this season. But when you're finished, if you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe and, as always, share it with a friend. Okay, let's get into it. Thanks so much for listening, and have a great weekend. Hey, Tristen, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for coming on.
Hey, man, I appreciate it, Chris. Thanks for having me on.
It's exciting to have you on because right now, I'm sure many of our listeners know you're on the current season of Top Chef. I've talked to a lot of people who've been on Top Chef, but never someone who is still going through it. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's been kind of a journey going and kind of watching it.
Is that weird watching it like in, after you've gone through it? Like, is it weird sitting at home on the couch watching the show?
Yeah, because there's like 2 sides of it, right? You know that you've lived through it, but you also don't know how it's coming off. So it's just as much a surprise for everybody else. And a lot of the times you block a lot of that trauma out. So you're just like, man, did that really happen like that? Or is that what was really going on? So it's very different.
Yeah. Well, before we get into Top Chef, let's kind of go backwards a little bit. When did you know you wanted to be a chef?
Oh, you know what? I probably was maybe like 7, 8 years old. I'm one of those really lucky people who found something they liked and found out that it could be a career. I maybe didn't take it seriously until maybe high school, but I loved cooking. And if there was a way to cook and make that my future, it was like that.
So you did a lot of cooking, like at home, like with mom or by yourself?
I mean, a little bit. So, I mean, some of it was a trip to Japan, and we were there for a little bit of time, and the food was very different from what I grew up with, being Trinidadian. And I remember I watched a lot of like cartoons and anime as a kid. I mean, I still do, but I remember all of it was in Japanese, and the only way to watch something in English that I understood was like QVC or like a version of QVC. And they were making like they were like trying to sell a waffle maker, and they were making waffles, and waffles were already kind of a new thing to me, but they were putting ice cream on it, they were putting chicken on it, they were putting all sorts of things, and me seeing like a certain food could be customized in a way, like so many different ways, like really enamored me.
When you said Japan, I didn't think that's where you were going to go with getting your culinary inspiration was going to be a QVC type show. So that's really interesting to
Yeah.
me. I was thinking like you had this great like omakase sushi experience when you were like 7, 8 years old or something.
No, I mean, there was a couple experiences that like I really hold really near and dear. Like as in cooking, it was scrambled eggs, how something could go from a hard shell egg to like this viscous little orb to like delicious with the addition of heat, and like, and then we added cheese and then we added green onions. And to me, once again, it was always that like customization that I really liked. And my mom always took me out to eat on Friday nights to some restaurant. We got dressed up. We went to a really nice restaurant, or what we thought was a really nice restaurant. And, we would eat, and it was great. And I loved it. I got to order whatever I wanted, which was amazing. I have a Caribbean military mother, so there wasn't a lot of like questions asked. There was a lot of like commands given. So being asked, I mean, it all got me.
So like what were some of those things when you went out to eat that maybe you'd never had and saw on a menu and wanted to try? Does anything stand out?
So sushi was one of them, obviously. And I come from a culture where not a lot of raw things are eaten and consumed. So that was a big one. I remember having a fish called mahi mahi and me just loving the name and thought it was the coolest thing. You know, there was this restaurant in Guam, and I remember it so well. And I must have been like 6 or 7. And it was called Top of the Mar, and it was on a cliff that overlooked a beach. And it was essentially like a Mongolian barbecue. It only took me like 20 years to figure out what that actually was, like what I was like seeing. And, like you would go around and you would grab noodles or rice and like all the different marinated meats and all these things. And one day I saw a person in line like grab an egg and never thought of that to go in what I was making. And you would take it up to these guys on this big like flaming drum, and they'd throw it all on there and they'd like mix it up. I mean, it's like Benihana for any kid, right? Like it's just the best day of your life, and it's just the most enamoring thing. Like having those kinds of things really like shaped what I was used to eating, like rice, roti, curry, those kinds of things.
I think we should have more experiential dining like that. I don't know that my kids have ever even been to something like that. Like we go to a lot of restaurants, but I don't know they've ever been to something similar. Like they've never been to a Benihana or anything. Maybe we should bring them out more to more experiential dining. I don't know.
I mean, maybe like, it is a cool experience as a kid for sure. I think us as chefs are like jaded. Like, are you kidding me? Like,
yeah, that's how I am. Yeah.
onion volcano.
$30 a person for what? No.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you end up going to Johnson & Wales. I, myself, also Johnson & Wales graduate. I went to Providence, graduated a few years before you. Did you find the college experience to be good?
Yeah, I loved it, honestly. It was like my way out of home, right? It was my way. I had already given up my own scholarships for going to college for sports. I had made my decision, was finally going to pursue something that I'd been really passionate about that I didn't necessarily know could be a career, but there was like a whole college just like that specialized in it. Will I say that like I don't regret anything? I loved going there. I made great friends. I really put the work in, and I think that was worth it for me. And I think some people don't really put the work in, so therefore culinary school is kind of, I mean, it ends up being kind of bullshit. And I would just say go work and go make money rather than like go get in debt. But, I partied, right? Like I had fun. But on Saturday mornings I did the little distinguished dinners and anything I could help or volunteer for, I did. I always found that it was really annoying. Like, right, you went to like, what is the class? Like French, or French class
Oh,
that
yeah,
we do.
yeah.
And, you like split everybody up into groups and like, you're going to do this dish and your group's going to do this dish. And like, I end up on like Vichy carrots, right? So it's like, I'm paying the same $40,000 a year that you are, and I'm doing carrots and you're doing lobster and sweetbread. So I would come to the class afterwards and then just like tag along because I asked if I could. So I really wanted to get what I could out of it.
Yeah, that's a great point. I don't think a lot of people know how that works. But yes, there were many days where it's like, I'm doing green beans amandine and I have 4 hours to do that for 20
Yeah,
people. And that's like literally all I'm doing. And I missed all the cool French stuff or
right.
whatever. Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like you knew kind of maybe what I would ask because, and I don't want to go down that path, but I have spoken to a lot of people about, would you do it again? I mean, it's a very different age than I graduated in 1998, so the world is very different than it was then, especially with, availability of knowledge and working opportunities, I think. And I'd say if you're going to go, I'd at least hold off a year or two
Yeah.
and then decide, like not necessarily like 18 years old, I've never worked in a kitchen. Let me just go off to culinary school without having ever even tried it.
Yeah. I've watched a lot of Emerald Live. It looks cool. Let me go to school,
I mean, that's kind of how I was, though. I mean, I grew up in Massachusetts. Emerald was from Massachusetts. He went
Yeah,
to
yeah, of
Johnson and
course.
Wales. I was like, sure, let me go. I didn't actually have that much restaurant experience, but it worked out for me okay. And if nothing else, I met my wife there and my best friends. So, you know, all good. But then you also worked at the Greenbrier. What was that experience like for you?
So yeah, when I left school, I was bored. I was working and I was going to school. When I graduated, I went and got like a second job. I was just used to it, and I really wanted to. I felt like I exhausted all of the places I wanted to work in Charlotte at the time, and it was very much like a growing city still. And they wanted more interns than they wanted employees at this point because we were a little cheaper at that point. So I found out about the Greenbrier through one of my classes, and one of my teachers was a graduate of their apprenticeship program. Also at that time, the season of Top Chef was there. I think it was season 6, and it was Michael Voltaggio.
Yeah, good
And
season.
I had found out that he went to the Greenbrier and graduated there. I had just gotten a new chef to Cuisine, and he was friends with Michael Voltaggio, and he was a graduate. So like all of these things were kind of coming, kind of leading me to like, let's give it a try. And I went up, I staged, I went up there, and I was they tell you all the stories. It was started, I mean, at that time, 57 years ago. This apprenticeship program only had like 12% like graduation rate. Richard Rosendale is like this demigod of this classical cooking and modern cooking. And it kind of like was this like, you're those kids that go into the mountains as monks and become out as ninjas. Like that's how I looked at it, right? Like otherwise I wasn't going to convince myself to go to West Virginia. And it was very different. It was a culture shock, going from a city to the mountains. Instantly like shave off the beard that I just finally got to grow. And it was just like a really serious culinary program. And in some ways, it represented a little bit of like the toxicity we were trying to get rid of. And other ways, it taught me so, 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 so much. And it was, I would always say it was a mixed experience. I'm better for it, 100%. I'll always say that. But the experience of it became strange for me because I just wanted to evolve and keep growing. And they kind of they take you to a point that they find a value in, and then no other direction is really allowed. So
It's weird because I feel like the kitchen is still evolving and the kitchen culture and all that. And, a lot of people came up through those kitchens and have come out the other side and said they really enjoyed it. But I don't think that would be the kind of kitchen experience for me. And I don't know, like, is the food like overly particular? Is that the word? Like, I don't know that I'm into ultra fine dining.
I am, because I like to see skill shown in a lot of different ways. And ultra fine dining is, I think, what it was defined as was like ultra focus. Listen, I've always described fine dining as just giving a little bit more of a fuck, right? Like just
Yeah.
that's all it was. And that's what I thought it had to be, right? Like I really give a shit about how I look and my pristine white coat and my black pants and my shiny shoes and that, right? I came from a military background with my mom. You know, the food and the how everything was cut and the precision and all of that, it just seemed so nuanced, and I was attracted to that part.
Hmm.
The part that I forgot or wasn't being conveyed was that's not the end all be all, and so few people get to taste that, and it's kind of unapproachable. And in my family and in my circle, right, they never get to touch that, right? Like
Yeah.
that's just not a circle that we live in, right? Caviar, foie gras, lobster. Like lobster was lobster, lobster, red lobster, so it was attractive but also like unobtainable, and I didn't like the unobtainable part of it. So obviously fine dining starting to take a shift, right? And once again, as I define it, I still think that you can do fine dining without the tablecloths, the towel hats, the precision knife cuts, the all of that. Like I still think that experience can be obtained. It's how you feel when you leave.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I guess like, listen, I know Rich. I actually joined the American Culinary Federation, which was not, it's not really my circle, but Rich moved
Okay.
back to this area not too long ago, and he joined our chapter. And the first day that Rich rolled in, I was like, oh shit, like Rich is like in this ACF chapter. That was pretty cool. And I've gotten to know him, and he's been on the podcast. Super respect for him. But like
Yeah.
that Bocuse d'Or kind of stuff, like
Yeah.
that doesn't interest me, like that level of cooking. Like it's a little too showy and not as like I don't know, maybe I'm just talking out my ass here, but anyway, I'm sure the experience was formative, and then you can take what you liked and what you didn't like and then
Yeah.
hopefully carry forward through your own lens, if you will.
No, for sure. I mean, when I first saw the stuff, I thought it was amazing, right? But I thought it was amazing because I hadn't seen it before. But then when I like did it and tasted it, and I was like, all right, it's cool, it's all right. Like, do I want to eat this or do this again? And I was there while Rich was doing his Bocuse d'Or, practice, and they set up this giant war room. And I mean, it was really cool to see, but I don't know, it just didn't look fun. And the ACF circle just seemed like, and I did the competitions because once again, I really liked competition, but then I'd get docked points because my gougere had Gruyere instead of Emmenthal, and I was like, "What?"
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's how I feel. Like when I'm not, I live in Maryland, and when I moved here, I was like, oh, that would be a great way to meet people kind of like in
Yeah,
the culinary circle. And it was just like a bunch of older, like country club guys. And
yeah,
like, that's just not my vibe. Like nothing wrong with it. Those people do a great job. I'm super impressed with what they can do. I just found that like it wasn't for me, really.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
And then you also worked for Marcus Samuelsson. Was that like, how did that compare to your Greenbrier experience?
So, I mean, just a crazy juxtaposition, right? So, from the black pants, the white coat, and the tall hat, and all the French terms and the we chefs to, you know, wear what you want. The colorful aprons, the backwards fitted hats, the the dining room was so loud, the music, just the people working next to me. It was amazing. And what I'm happy about is that I got those formative skills, right? Through, and this is why I don't regret, right? Like I got these skills to be organized. I got the next skills to be fast and flavor profiles and technique. And then I got to take it to like somewhere where I could like show culture and show the things that meant something to me and feel a little bit more soulful. And it was, I don't know, it was such a great experience. It was the first time I got to like be me and find a voice of what I actually liked about cooking and what I thought cooking was.
So did you start to be given some leeway there then, it sounds like, to create dishes and kind of figure out who you were as a chef?
Yeah, it was the first time I was asked, where are you from? You should cook something from there.
Hmm.
Up until then, it was like, make this Italian dish, make this Escoffier dish, make this, like it was always that. And then, there was times where I tried to insert my stuff into it with the skills that I had. And it was met with like confusion or, always not the most open to it because it was like, you need to learn this. And I always had a lot of questions. And, my questions were, why is Escoffier the standard of this? You know, Chinese cuisine, Japanese cuisine, African cuisine are all older than him. Why are these not the bases, right? Like, why is being French trained the standard of skill?
And have we gotten that answer? Because I feel like they're still having this conversation like out in the world. I just saw someone last week say something about like the mother sauces and everyone should know the mother sauces, which is like, it's fine, but I would rather eat Ethiopian food than French food. And like, I can't tell you the last time I made an espagnole, but or I'll make like a guajillo salsa. Like, it's just more interesting to me. Why are these classical French sauces the epitome of knowing how to cook?
Yeah. And I mean, those were the questions I had. And those were the questions that, sometimes were well received with like, answers and sometimes not, right? Like it is what it is. I also get that like sometimes just stick to what somebody thinks are the bases, learn that, and then go off and find what you want. But I feel like you have to give people the opportunity to explore them themselves and then teach. And that's what I kind of try to do now.
So when were you first given the reins to run your own kitchen? And, I guess like, how did that go?
So, I mean, I started at Red Rooster as a sous chef, but was given so much to do, right? Like our chef de cuisine was, he was there. He was fine. He was very like supportive and he was also tired. And he was just like, you two sous chefs just do whatever you want. And there was me and there was a Filipino kid and both of us were like, sure, if we're in charge of this stuff, we're going to make the menu and probably be our own demons, right? Because we found out really quick, like, maybe don't make the dishes so intricate when you're doing, 500 covers, 400 covers. But we ran that kitchen really well. But when it came to like my actual own kitchen as executive chef, I opened a restaurant in Brooklyn. And it was a farm to table restaurant. It was owned by a Caribbean ownership. And I felt like I was kind of getting all of the cool things that I really liked. I got to do, fine dining at certain parts. I got to do casual in other parts. I got to do Caribbean. I kind of got to do all of it and kind of put a little bit of my ethos of like wanting to do some farm to table in there as well.
How would you describe your food today if you had to, obviously people want to know, like, what do you cook? I mean, I've seen you on Top Chef. Is that, I'm sure, representative kind of where you are in your career right now?
Yeah, it really is. I'm a product of my experiences. And while I'll say, as a blanket statement, like I do like neo Afro-Caribbean cuisine, right? But I've only been able to identify that in the last 7, 8 years, right? But my career goes back further than that, right? It takes me to Sweden, it takes me to the Bahamas, Bermuda, my upbringing, the fast food jobs that I had, Golden Corral, like, you know, times with, cooking with Thai friends and Turkish friends. And so I would say global. I would say just I have a really good understanding because I'm kind of a dweeb on food stories. And that's what got me to my Afro-Caribbean thing of just asking a lot of questions. And so I would say my food style now is just answering. And I love to be a historian about food and so that's where that's where the Turkish stuff comes from and that's where Portuguese, if you take Vasco da Gama and look out as his roots, like what would the world be like without what Vasco da Gama did, right? Like what would the world be without the spice trade, without colonization? And my understanding has been trying to do that And because a lot of that is rooted in African cuisine as the start, that's where my Afro-Caribbean cuisine comes, because that's also my journey.
Do you find it interesting, or I don't know if interesting is the word, but like there seems to be a lot more focus in recent years on Afro-Caribbean cooking. Like, are you seeing this as a whole, like, I don't want to say trend, but just like more up and coming? Like, you're definitely seeing more attention placed on those cuisines than I can remember in past years.
I mean, I am. I really, really am. It has been an amazing thing to see a lot of success, right? The Kwame Onwuachis,
Hmm.
the Eric Ajapongs, the Gregory Gourdets, the Akoko and Ikoye in London. There's so many people doing this really great thing. And, some of it I think started with Marcus. It's what attracted me to him, right? I, once again, had only seen a certain image of a chef. And as a kid, I finally saw this man that was black working in a Swedish restaurant doing Afro-Swedish cuisine. And it's funny because it ended up doing something different later, but like, like he wasn't just being put in a box of like soul food and barbecue, and he was wearing like a denim coat, and it was just so different for me. And I saw something cool and something different, and I don't have to be in this box. I could be whatever I want and tell a story. So I think that we're starting to have more acceptance of that, and people are starting to accept their story a lot more. So it's starting to come out, and people are recognizing it, and I love that.
I mean, and obviously it's very regional. I have maybe a slightly distorted view because I live outside Washington, D.C. Like we've had Kwame's been here. Eric has a restaurant here.
Yeah,
I actually met Marcus last week. He's got a new restaurant coming to
yeah,
D.C.
it's
Like,
Sly.
we've got the most Ethiopian restaurants like in the United States in like one little cluster. So I see a lot of it. It's probably different as you get out to like Boise, Idaho, or something like that.
Sure.
But definitely in the mainstream food media, I've seen so much of this, and I think it's really cool because I really love the food and want to keep trying these new cuisines I've never had before.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really great. I mean, I I'm from the DMV too, so I grew up going to DC a lot, ever since the 6th grade. And, the Ethiopian cuisine was absolutely there. But when you went in there, it was nothing but Ethiopians. And now you can see a lot more people in there, and people are a lot more open. And it is, like I said, it's a really beautiful thing that it's starting to get the attention that it deserves. And you're finding more chefs have the same journey, right? Like, Kwame worked in fine dining, went into this now. Gregory worked in fine dining, went into his route. And so you're seeing all of this collective of these skills coming together, but with stories being able to match them on their parallels.
Yeah, I think it's great. And I need to get out to more of these restaurants really soon and do some eating because I feel like I'm falling behind there.
We always feel that way.
When you're chefs, like you're always
Yeah.
cooking, never eating. What do you have cooking? What's going on with you right now professionally? Where are you at, and what do you have working on?
You know what? Right now, I've been really like blessed to, I took some time off from working in an actual kitchen, and I'm addicted to being in a kitchen. Like I am a restaurant chef. I don't want to cater. I love a private dinner every once in a while. But I love being in a restaurant. I like ordering my food. I like it coming. I like guests. I like service. I like all of that. Addicted to it. But for the last year, I kind of took time off of that so I could focus on trying to open up a restaurant. I've been wanting to do this for years, but every time I get like another offer, I get scared, right? I want to be comfortable. I like going to restaurants when I can get off, and like being able to pay for that. And but I've taken the last maybe like year, traveled, kind of done some events, some with Marcus, some without, a lot of, private dinners, private events, and really have just kind of practiced my own skills, But this is all to lead up to my own restaurant. And so that's what I'm looking for right now. I'm looking at spaces. I am looking at different opportunities to get what I want. And I've just been shaping kind of my dream.
The show will be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Hey chefs, it's Chris here with a quick message. Are you thinking about starting your own personal chef business? Or maybe you're stuck trying to grow it? Then check out my other podcast, Personal Chef Business Startup Guide. I'm sharing real-world tips from over a decade of running my own successful personal chef business. Everything from pricing strategies to dealing with picky clients. I also interview some of the best people who can help get you there as well. So if you're ready to turn your culinary skills into a profitable business, head over to Personal Chef Business Startup Guide wherever you listen to podcasts. Let's build that dream together. Also, you can find the links in these show notes. What do you think about the whole pop-up thing? Because it seems like everyone has a pop-up. A lot of people use it as the gateway to a brick and mortar. What's your experience been with that, either as both a diner or someone who's done that?
Well, I'll say it like this. I love a pop-up because it supports people. That's the first thing. That's the only reason why I'll go to a pop-up. I just want to support somebody, because I feel like if we don't do that, then that's one brick and mortar we may never have that might be great. And the other way is, like, with me doing them, I change my mind a lot. I have a million ideas in my head. I probably scale up too much when I shouldn't. And pop-ups are a really good way to humble the shit out of you, to show you what is possible and not possible. And if you don't love it, you'll know that day. And so I've really used it to kind of mold the format of what I want to do in life, restaurant-wise. See how people really take to my cuisine that I'm saying, right? Because yes, I'm seeing all the success that other chefs are having with it, but is theirs exactly mine? And is their area exactly where I'm doing it? And I'm trying to take it to another level higher in fine dining, right? So, like, I want to do the omakase, but it's African and Caribbean and Southern and like that Black diaspora cuisine. I want to take it to that level. And I'm really trying to find where people find the value in that, right? Like, we'll all go spend $150 on a single steak on a plate at a steakhouse. We'll all go do that when it says it's French. We'll all go do that. I'm doing these pop-ups to test where the threshold is with this cuisine. Because I feel like as soon as we hit the equator, everyone's value for food starts to dip. And that's where I really want to change. And the pop-ups have been really kind of helping me do that. And it's also helping me like bring more value to it, because people are loving it. And I was skeptical because I was made skeptical my entire career. So, I cook with fear. And that's what kept me in restaurants and not opening my own, because I was just like, it's not going to work. They want this. It's not going to work. They're used to this. It's not going to work. I just need to do this. And now that's why I've like forced myself to just go through it, go through the exercise and see what people like and what they're willing to pay for, or make them figure out that they want to pay for it.
Do you think you still need to be outspoken about justifying prices for this kind of cuisine? Like, where do you see your role in that, as far as being outspoken about, like, this is why this costs this much, or this is why we should be paying this much? Do you have those conversations publicly?
Oh, all the time. I even do this little exercise where I want to see where people's heads are at, where, I'll hold up, I'll try to give people, I'll bring them with me, but I'll give everybody the dollar signs things that you get on like Yelp and stuff. And I'll just start going through cuisines and I'll ask what people think the cuisine is worth, right? And no matter what, right, if I go Italian, like $2 signs will go up, some will be $3. If I say Japanese, you'll get some people that hit up $3 because that's really expensive, and some people that hit up $1, and you'll kind of know where they eat Japanese cuisine at. But, French, $3 signs, a steakhouse, $3 signs. And then you start throwing in like Colombian, $1 sign. And, Mexican, $1 side. And they're not saying that these cuisines aren't delicious. They're not saying that they don't eat them. You say African food and they like throw the dollar sign like halfway. Like they like, you know what I mean? Like they don't necessarily say that it's bad. They're just like, I've never paid this much for this. I've only ever gotten this food in a to-go container. And why should I pay this much for it?
Yeah. A few years ago, I heard Alex Stupak speak, and he was saying something along the lines of like, listen, you go to Le Bernardin, love Eric Repair, right? But you get like 2 scallops on a plate, French technique, butter sauce, lemon wine, butter, whatever. The dish is like $25. It's a first course. Everyone's fine with that. He's like, I put that on a tortilla and it's a taco and people lose their mind, but I'm nixtamalizing the corn in-house. We're grinding it. We're making our own tortillas. We're making our own salsas, all the accompaniments. He's like, arguably, it's like 3 times the work, but because now it's identified as a taco, people just absolutely lose their shit about it, and you can't sell a $28 taco.
For sure. And that's the part, right? That is we are what we're familiar with, and, like people fear what they don't understand. And you're right. Like and right. As soon as you call it a taco, it is something that you stand up to eat and you smash. And all of the thought process of sourcing single harvest corn and the nixtamalization process and everything you went to go through that, right? Like I went to Empillon, right? It was delicious, right? And of course, did I quickly look at a $35 set of tacos? I did, but then I said, you know what? I'm here. Work goes into this. Is it delicious? Enough said. We just can't give values to things just because of where it's from. It's unfair to certain cuisines, right? It's just, we did that to Japanese cuisine. Somehow Japanese cuisine's marketing and ability to get out of that worked, and now 80% of Michelin star restaurants are Japanese worldwide. And someone had to be outspoken about it. Someone had to do it. And until someone can not be sure which one's the most expensive cuisine, like, I would like to be outspoken about it.
Keep talking about it. It's something I talk about all the time. I love when people talk about this, especially when it's not centered on Eurocentric classics like French and Italian. We all know kind of what that is. I'm more interested in seeing the finer dining versions of other cuisines.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be interesting, right? Like, we've all had these dishes before, so let's see some bolder sauces, right? Like, let's see some Mexico sauces. Let's see some sauce from Peru. Some African sauces. I mean, shit, even if we're going to do European, like, let's go a little deeper, right? Like, what's a Bulgarian dish, right? Let's what's the Czech doing right now? Like that, those are the things that I want to talk about.
But on the flip side, you need to deliver, because I will say I went to a high-end Filipino restaurant and it was like crazy expensive, and there was like nothing. I ordered some chicken dish and it was like, it came out, I don't even know if it was 2 drumsticks. It was like 1 drumstick, maybe there was 2, but there was like no sauce. It was just like a dry rub and grilled, and it came with a bowl of white rice. Like, I'm not kidding when I say it was like maybe 2 drumsticks and a bowl of white rice, and it was like $27. Like, that was it. And that was the entree. It wasn't like a starter. And at that point, I'm like, there's like a lot of great Filipino places where I could go get like an $8 bowl of like really awesome stuff. And I just felt like I don't mind paying for it, but if you're going to be like the fine dining version of like Filipino cooking, then like you also need to go like balls out if you're going to be charging those kind of prices, in my opinion.
I mean, when I lived in the Philippines as a kid, that what you described was a number 1 at McDonald's. But and that's where I take it very seriously, because Marcus always told me, like, if we're going to do this, we need to do it well, because we need to build trust. And that's what we're doing. That's what I'm doing. It's the only reason why I actually ever did TV, was to build trust. And unfortunately, this is the route that we had to go to get there, right? Once again, the Kwame's, the Eric, like, we had to like go put ourselves out there and show it and be successful at it at a grand on a scale like that, in order for people to look and say, "Oh my God, look at it, it's good." And we had to go get value. We had to go get validated by white people to say it was good for other people to come try it, even our own people. And, but the biggest thing is when you're building trust, you got to do it correctly and you got to do it amazing so that when someone says, okay, I gave you a shot, like you got to hit it. Like you got to hit it. Otherwise they're just like, nope, back to that burger that I wanted, and it's a really important thing to try to do at a really high level. Because, we have something to prove. No one's going to say like, all right, this one kind of sucked. I'll just go to the next one and pay like $32 for the next place that does it. Like, nah, they're just like, nope, I swear off this chicken and this rice dish and I'm going to go get a steak.
But do you find that like your people from your backgrounds and cultures might even be more critical? Because I hear that from friends. Like one of my best friends is Filipino, and he's like, yeah, like we're the hardest. Like if a Filipino restaurant were to open up, especially like a high end one, like everyone's going to come out in the community and be like, that's crazy.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, 100%. And it's funny because at first I didn't get it. I judged back, right? Like I was doing a Haitian dish and when I lived in Miami, and for the most part, I did almost everything exactly the same, right? I was making griot. The only thing I changed was the cut from a pork shoulder to a St. Louis rib and the color of cabbage from white to red. But past that, it was all the same. And the most critical, and I charged $27 for it. And it was like 4 ribs or something like that. And man, I got crushed for that. And they weren't saying it wasn't bad. They're just like, this isn't it. And why am I paying this much money? But then if I went down the street and I went to another restaurant that served the same ribs, but they called them, Fra Diavolo ribs or whatever, right? $27. And they're like, these are amazing. And I was like, well, why'd you value theirs over mine? And these are yours. Like this is legitimately yours, right? You identified with it. You saw it on the menu. You're like, oh, that's a Haitian dish. But you're being the most critical on something that I guess I changed. But yeah, I mean, we're the biggest critics. And that's why, once again, pop-ups and stuff, like be supportive of the change so that our cuisine can evolve.
Well, yeah, it's a big thing that I think we still need to keep talking about. But can we talk about Top Chef for a little bit?
Sure.
You're on Top Chef. What made you want to go on Top Chef?
I mean, I think like we discussed before. Well, one, I'm competitive. I really, really like to compete.
So this is your wheelhouse. You have that competitive in your soul.
I do. I think competition breeds progress. Competition should just pull the best out of you, right? Like if you're not playing to win, then why are you there? Or if you're not there to get better or be around people who want to do better, then why not? Why don't you want that? And I can understand some people aren't competitive. They want like everyone to win and they want everyone to eat. And there's a point to that. But for me, the best I've ever cooked was in competitions. When I met Marcus, I met him on a competition. And I was working at an Italian restaurant, doing my thing, got on there, and all of a sudden I had to cook things I'd never cooked before. And I was like, I didn't even know my brain could work like that. Like I was just exercising muscles that I just never used before. And I thought the food was amazing. Like amazing. And when I came back to the real world, I was like, I can't do that anymore. And so competitions really allow me to remind me why I cook, why I love cooking, and gives me that ability to be around a bunch of people who feel the same way.
I mean, kitchens as a whole are fast-paced, they're stressful, they're hard. I'm sure Top Chef's the same, but like, I'm sure it's a different kind of like stress and that kind of thing. Like, how do you compare those two kitchens? Like, if nobody's been on a competition show, how would you describe it in relation to like working in a regular, fast-paced, maybe fine dining or high-end kitchen?
I think they're the same, honestly. Like, I mean, I always felt like I was in a competition on the line. Like, I just wanted to do better every single day. I wanted to clean the mushrooms a little faster every single day. I wanted the next person's job. I wanted all of those things. So for me, it's kind of the same. I guess to say the only difference is when you're on a competition one, you don't worry about food cost or waste, right? You get it done. Which sucks to say, and sometimes has been my downfall. Is like, I don't want to waste that. I really need to use that. The other part of it is like, I mean, you work against a clock, but you do that online too, right? Like, how many times has someone been like, yo, where's my scallop? And you're like, 6 minutes, chef. Like, it's the same on a competition, right? At least that's the way I look at it. I was like, man, what's the fastest I can get this plate up in my regular kitchen and also in this time limit that they're giving me?
Is it more mentally taxing though? Because you have to be, I mean, I think you're a creative person. It seems like it, but like, when you're in a restaurant, you're not having to create like that every day necessarily. Like once you've got your menu locked in.
I mean, staying in the creative space is really hard. And trying to outthink other people, your own mistakes, things that can go wrong, your own skill level, like trying to stay in that space is the hardest part of it, I think. It's cool to come up with a special, right? But like, is it cool coming up with a special on the spot and then executing it perfectly with like no second take two, right? Like no way of fixing it. And then you get judged on your first try of doing something. And then, okay, maybe you're successful at it, but can you do it again tomorrow? Twice. And then can you do it again tomorrow? Twice. And can you do it again tomorrow? Twice. And it taxes you, right? Like you don't sleep. I don't sleep. I already don't sleep. So like now add that, right? It's not just like when you go home, you settle down for a second, you grab a beer, you watch some TV, some highlights, you go to bed, you wake up real quick, like, yo, did I put the veg order in? And then you're like, but that's it, right? Like that's where that's where it stops. That's where the stress stops. But when you're in these competitions, it's just like you run through everything over again, like, all right, well, I have enough time to do this. Do I want to show this skill that I have? Do I want to do that? Like being in that space all the time and being nervous on how people are going to perceive you on now you're also on TV. Can I be that same person that I'm in my regular kitchen? Or like, I also have to worry about how I behave. It can be, really, really mentally taxing. Honestly, it becomes harder, in your kitchen, you're comfortable and there you're never.
And I'm sure there's, you're living with these people too. So you're kind of like, I imagine rehashing this. Like you don't just go home and decompress. Like you've got all the same people there now that you're with and they're around you. So you're, I'm sure, thinking about it the whole time you're there. I think I would be. I don't know if that was your experience, but like always with your brain going, thinking about the show and the cooking.
Yeah, I mean, you can't turn it off. And it's not like you have anything to turn it off with. And then you just go around other people and they can't turn it off. So you guys all just start talking at it because there's no other distractions other than maybe like playing Monopoly or Uno. And, then again, you're still competing with them in just like even a dumb way, but it becomes that. And it's, it's the not being able to turn it off. And you can't distract yourself. You can't go watch a movie. You can't go watch TV. You can't go like scroll on your phone. Like you're just in it all the time.
Of the episodes, I think we're up through like episode 9, through the episodes that people have maybe seen, is there a challenge that you felt was particularly hard for you from a culinary standpoint? Just like, I don't really know what I'm going to do here. And it kind of threw you for a loop?
So, I mean, if people have watched the episodes, it makes me look like I'm the pickiest eater ever, but I am not. They just happened. So there was like 2 episodes where, one, we had to basically deconstruct and reconstruct a dessert from a dessert to something savory. I was able to figure out, my own way through that. So that was the not turning it off, but I got through it. I did well. I won that one. The next one was a pickle challenge, which there's only 2 things in this world I can't get down, and that's pickles and okra. And it was a 5-course meal of pickles, and I thought I was never going to get through it, but I figured it out. I did really well, got through it. Now, the one that I think has been the hardest for me was the very last episode that we just did. and the challenge was to create a stunt on a dish.
Uh-huh.
And it was just really hard to conceptualize. Like, what is a stunt on a dish, right? Like, is it easy to get distracted by trying to do molecular gastronomy and then it just like doesn't taste good? Or, the juice isn't really worth the squeeze?
There were some liberties taken there with what a stunt was, I think.
There really was. But like, I don't know. Do you know what you would have done? What stunt would you have done?
I have no idea at all. No, like, I think everyone did a great job with having to come up with a stunt and make a delicious dish, for sure. I was just stressing with like all the liquid nitrogen freezing the stuff though, because like I'm at home like getting stressed for y'all because I'm like, oh no, like that's not how I think they wanted that to come out.
No, I mean, it was a strange thing to do because, in your head, you're just like, I'm just going to make a damn good dish and just come up with everything else later. Some people get really contrived and like, I'm just going to lean in on the stunt part and the dish part will come later. And like, it's just trying to figure out what the challenge means to you. And it meant something. What were there? 7 of us, 8 of us? 7 of us. And 7 different people looked at it 7 different ways.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, they would rather have a dish that tastes absolutely amazing and maybe didn't deliver on the stunt than like this really kind of whiz-bang stunty thing that just tasted absolutely horrible. But I don't know. I've never had to put a plate up in front of them.
Right. I mean, if I would tell you like the things I thought about doing, it was insane, right? Like I had requested helium. I requested all sorts of stuff. I wanted my dish to come out. And then I wanted somebody to like light a balloon that had seasoning in it at the table and everyone's plate would be there and they'd light it and it would explode. The seasoning would come down. And I was like, Tristen, back up.
Maybe 3 years staging at Alinea and you would have been better prepared for that.
Yeah, exactly. Like everyone had to wear a goggle so it's nothing in their eye. Like it. Yeah. I mean, in the end, it was a really hard thing. And, my ability to not turn it off was really active that day and night.
So is this an experience you would recommend to people? And if so, like any words of advice? Because I'm sure there's people out there listening who have applied or want to go on this show or a similar type show. What do you have to say for those people?
I mean, culinary wise, I think I would just tell people don't limit yourself. If you have a specialty, I would say go get some more. If you're like, I just cook Colombian cuisine, like I would go learn a little bit more things. At least know 2 things of something else, right? Because I for certain didn't expect to have to make a pizza.
I see that a lot. I feel like not necessarily this season as much, but there's some seasons where people seem to not know something that to me seems like pretty straightforward. Like they do have to go make, I don't know, some dish. And I'm like, what do you mean you've never had, I don't know, whatever type food? It just seems surprising, like Spanish food. It's like, oh, we have to create Spanish food. I'm like, you've never had Spanish food? You don't know how to cook this?
I mean, they had a barbecue one where they had to like just do barbecue one night. And people were like, I've never done this before. And I was like, really? Like, you've never made potato salad? Like, you know what I mean? Like, but you have to be I find that I was very lucky. I'm very blessed that I had a very casual upbringing, a very down to earth upbringing, very well traveled. I worked at McDonald's, I worked at Golden Corral, I worked at Cheesecake Factory, Dave and Buster's, and then I worked Michelin, and then I've worked a pizza place, and I've worked an Asian spot, and I never said no to a type of cuisine, no matter the format it was. And so that made me a well-rounded person. There's some kids now, and this is where the culinary school thing comes back to it, right? That they come out of school. Now it's way easier. Not easier, but it's more common that you can come right out of school and go right into a 3 Michelin star restaurant. Right into a fine dining restaurant. Because once again, you think that's the goal coming out of school. Like fine dining is the goal. And so, yeah, there's people that I know that have worked nothing but fine dining. But I bet you if you give them a burger, they'll fuck that up.
Yeah, and you skip a bunch of steps. When I was at Johnson Wells, we had to do our internships, and I had a lot of friends who went to very fancy places And they basically like the stereotypical, like I had to peel potatoes like every day. Like they were just free labor. But I went and worked at a hotel in Minneapolis. And the day I got there, like my chef was just like, do you know how to make like this thing? I'm like, sure. He's like, go do it. Like I was given like a lot of leeway. And I learned so much from that experience. It wasn't super fancy, but it was a nice hotel in downtown Minneapolis. But they gave me a lot of room to learn and make some mistakes, and then they would always like swoop in, and I got some good training, but it wasn't like a just stand there and sweep the floor and peel the potatoes kind of experience.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I got really lucky being able to do stuff like that, and I've never looked at any cuisine. I've never looked down on any cuisine or any style. I'm very thankful for McDonald's. I'm very thankful for Golden Corral. I was a horrible employee there, right? I worked the grill station and like I didn't know temperatures. I just really liked that it was the only real cooking I could do. So I volunteered to do it all the time, and like everyone either got rare or well done. Like I didn't know anything else at that time, but yeah, I mean if anyone should go on that show, like just try to round yourself out the most, because if you think you're going to make your food, you'll get lucky if you get to be like, this is actually my specialty. But you'll make so many things that you've never made before or even thought you would ever have to make before because of those situations. So the second part, I would say that, and that's the most important part, because once again, we always know cooking is the easy part, right? Like it's the mental game. Like know what you can do with yourself in your alone time. Work out. Learn how to get your energy out in certain places. Learn how to sleep. Like learn how to wind down without your normal wind down stuff. That was a big game changer. I was lucky to be warned about that beforehand, and it was something I never thought about. And it's also something that we should know in our regular industry, right? Like we should exercise. We should do these things because it really does help you in the long run. And, reduce stress, because it's a stressful situation, and that's what you need to learn to be able to do on your own.
Yeah, words of advice for anyone in the food industry, right? As I'm always like, how do I squeeze in a 45-minute workout today?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, before we get out of here, I want to give you the opportunity to share anything you want to talk about, get off your chest, say to people listening out there, what do you got for us before we get out of here today?
You know what? I will always tell people, ask questions. Ask all the questions you can. And even if it's a stupid question, ask it to yourself and then just go chat GPT it, right? You have that ability now. So don't take anything for granted, like I've gotten to where I've gotten, and I hold the little bit of knowledge that I have now by legitimately just asking, why is it like that? If you're of a certain culture, advocate for it. Advocate for its value. Advocate for its visibility. Advocate for other people trying it. Force it down as many people who haven't had it before. And that is how our world can progress. Our industry and culinary industry can progress. If you don't like wine, go drink it. If you don't like beer, go drink it. But don't just drink it, learn about it. Like that's what separates you from the alcoholic. But like
for sure.
But yeah, in the end, it's just like, ask yourself questions. And because of that, you might find a lot of parallels and stuff. And that's how I've learned how to connect cuisines. And you'll find that the world's a lot smaller place than you think when you ask the right questions.
And I think being on the other end of that from like a mentorship stance, try to be the chef who can take the time to answer those questions if you have someone asking you. I'd like to see the days of the because I said so, like that's not how I parent and that's not how I ever ran a kitchen. I mean, yes, there's times we are on the line and shit is flying and it's just like, I need you to do this thing. But like taking the time to come back to that after the fact to say, okay, like here's the explanation behind that. So
no, it's important. It's really important. Like platform is important. And if you're the executive chef of somewhere, you're in a leadership role and you're not actively trying to train someone else to take your job, then you're not doing enough. You're not doing enough for them. And while I've been told, and I agree, like it's not my job to teach you. It's your job to ask the questions and then I'll teach you, because I'm not going to just come up to you and be like, you want to learn how to make a terrine today? Because we're a Mexican restaurant. We don't do that. Like, it's not going to happen, right? It's going to, So that's why I would say ask the questions, but on the other end, like take the time, right? Your staff, your people, mentorship is so important. And I was lucky that I got that. It was probably annoying to them, probably a lot. Like, chef, can I come in earlier and we can do this? Like, I've been thinking about this dish. I made it at home. I'm going to bring it in. I bought all the prep. Like, chef, just sit down and try it. And you should. Give them the feedback, sit down and try it.
I'd like to see more kitchens like that.
Yeah. We just got to make the time. Like, we want to keep employees. We want to, like, let's teach them. Let's make it a place that's worth their while. Let's make them better for the next place they go to.
In an industry that is ever evolving and is, I've seen a lot of good people leave in recent years. So how do we get people to stay and get more people interested in this industry?
It only benefits us. I mean, you go to a restaurant and it's shitty, it's your fault because you didn't, like, if you're in the industry and you went to a restaurant and it's shitty, it's because we didn't support someone enough to be better. Like, that's it.
That's it. Well, that's a great place to leave it then. Listen, it's been great having you on the show today. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Chris, man, thank you so much. I love being able to just kind of throw it all up. So it was really good. Thanks for the opportunity to do that.
And we're all going to be pulling for you on Top Chef. Although I will say, Lana came on my podcast in 2021. So she's an OG. She was the kickoff of season 2, and we're now on season 6. So I've had my eye on her too, but hope one of you two pulls it off in the end.
That's my boo. I love her so much. She's amazing.
Well, again, thanks for coming on the show. And to all of our listeners, this has been Chris with Chefs Without Restaurants. You're still here? The podcast's over. If you are indeed still here, thanks for taking the time to listen to the show. I'd love to direct you to one place, and that's chefswithoutrestaurants.org. From there, you'll be able to join our email newsletter, get connected in our free Facebook group, and join our personal chef, catering, and food truck database so I can help get you more job leads. And you'll also find a link to our sponsor page where you'll find products and services I love. You pay nothing additional to use these links, but I may get a small commission, which helps keep the Chefs Without Restaurants podcast and organization running. You might even get a discount for using some of these links. As always, you can reach out to me on Instagram at Chefs Without Restaurants or send me an email at chefswithoutrestaurants@gmail.com. Thanks so much.